Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It's a friendly Friday. It is October the 18th. We're rolling live on Rumble and on wherever else we go. Twitter, X. Apparently, that's disrespectful to call it Twitter, but it still feels like Twitter to me. We're on Locals. If you guys want to join our Locals channel, we highly encourage you to go and do that. Go to kyleseraphin.com, join the Locals channel. You could be a paid or a non-paid subscriber. Take your pick. We've got some stuff behind the wall that's kind of interesting. I also put a lot of the documents. If we're going to put receipts up from the show, that's where they go. It's kyleseraphin.com. It's the easiest place to interact. It's a much friendlier community than the other social media platforms. And we share our own little memes and videos and whatnot over there. It's a good group of people, including people that may help you move across the country. We found out, yeah, we had a little call-in show last night with Real Steve Friend, and that was a good time. If you guys want to know, just go check that out at kyleseraphin.com. Today's show is going to be about, I don't know, getting roasted. Kind of, I want off this ride, the American ride, the roller coaster. It's so many ups and downs. I just need the season to be over. It's exhausting, but at least we got a little bit of comedy. We're going to end with some Donald Trump comedy for the week. An attempt by Kamala Harris to do comedy. And then Israel decided to just make a job opening for the leader of Hamas. They blew up the last one in July, and they just blew up the other one yesterday. Well, actually, I think they shot him in the head. I saw some pictures from some special ops guys that have a feed on social media. It looked like the guy got legitimately canoed or fruit bowled or whatever you want to call it, but his head was open. And yeah, good riddance to terrorists. That's the take from our show in general. Not big on doing foreign policy stuff here, but we'll cover down on that. That's where we're going to go with today's show. And we're going to have Steve on in just 1 second. Before we do that, let me go ahead and just say big thanks to the folks that support our program. That includes my Patriot Supply. Folks, we're just going to ask you a real simple question. Do you think that this country is falling apart? Are you being alarmed by what's going on around you? You're not alone. In fact, Americans from all walks of life have taken action to prepare for whatever's coming next. You know what I say, prepare or repair. And that starts with having an emergency food supply at home. Storing food in your home is the right thing to do because God knows what's going to happen next. We're living in these crazy times. And that explains why so many people are prepping. Right now, you can get the 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. It comes with delicious foods like creamy stroganoff, honey wheat bread, and mushroom rice pilaf. The entire kit offers over 2,000 calories a day. It lasts for up to 25 years. God knows what the country's going to look like then, but you'll know that you'll be ready if the day comes when you need it. PrepareLikeKyle.com is where you go to order your 3-month emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Again, it's PrepareLikeKyle.com. Go check them out. Get yourself ready. You never know what's coming down the pike, and nobody wants to be unprepared. It's better to be 10 years early than 1 day late. And you know who's on time? My buddy Steve Friend. We just did this a few minutes ago. Welcome back, Steve.
Glad to be here, and as his tradition dictates, I am in the season because today is National No Beard Day. Why aren't you?
Is that a thing?
I'm going to make it a thing.
All right.
Face of the franchise right here.
Here's the deal, man. George Hill and I talked about this yesterday. Face of the franchise. We need you to grow like a cop stash or maybe sandpaper your face. We need you to rough it up a little bit because the face of the franchise cannot be looking so young. That was the take. What say you?
If I tried and attempted, I would get 3 catfish whiskers on each side, which would make me look like, I don't know, a member of the Ming Dynasty from 700 years ago. But otherwise, it would not go well for us.
It reminds me of, there's a guy named Kyle Kinane who does comedy, and he has this entire thing about Trader Joe's. Have you ever heard the Trader Joe comedy bit? The subtle racism of Trader Joe's?
No, but I'm down for that one because let's just dunk on Trader Joe's.
Well, Trader Joe's is great in some ways.
I get along with the Walmart people.
Right. Trader Joe's is kind of like crunchy Walmart people. They're still cheap, right? But he does this whole thing about the subtle racism because Trader Joe's has all of its own brands, but they're internal. So like if you buy Mexican food, frozen Mexican food packages from Trader Joe's, it's like Trader Jose. And if you buy the Asian food, it's Trader Ming. And anyway, and if you buy the Italian, it's like Trader Giuseppe. Anyway, he does this whole little bit about who they are. Then he imagines what Trader Joe would look like pretending to be each of those people and coming out. And so he does a whole like Asian accent, which is pretty great. So we're gonna run down some of these little topics today. I wanted to throw this one on the front because the mainstream media has a hard time when terrorists are killed. They try to do like homages and let them know that they were very serious people who also were engaged, in terrorism. But that doesn't define them as a person. They're not just terrorists. So Steve, let's get loaded right now with ABC News and their takes on Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar killed in Gaza by Israeli forces. And apparently one of the things that they wanted people to do is be aware about some things about this man. Let me add this there. There it is. What you need to know. Apparently you need to know things, period, about this guy. So here it is. He's been credited with being the mastermind for the October 7th attack last year, so just over a year ago. Kind of telling that they were able to get him within a year. They weren't even targeting the guy at the time, but killed by Israeli forces. And like I said, I saw some pictures and it looked pretty awful. The Israeli foreign defense minister said something to the effect of, this master murderer, Yahya Sinwar, who was responsible for the massacres and the atrocities of October 6th, was killed. This is a great military and moral achievement for Israel, a victory for the entire free world against the evil axis of extreme Islam led by Iran. Are you shedding any tears over terrorists being killed off by Israelis?
No, I'm all down for terrorists being offed. I mean, are we going to find out that he was some sort of like introspective, austere cleric now?
Yeah. That's exactly right. Things that we should know about him. He actually was already convicted in Israel, in the Israeli courts, for another massacre. And apparently they had, at this point in time, while he was out there running around free, he had a $400,000 bounty on his head. But the fun part is that they had him in jail. I think they had him in jail for like 22 years. Let me just read this here. So he helped establish Hamas in the 1980s. In 1989, an Israeli court sentenced him to 4 life sentences for his role in killing suspected Palestinian informers and plotting to murder 2 Israeli soldiers. He spent 22 years in prison and was one of the more than 1,000 Palestinian detainees released in 2011 in exchange for 1 Israeli soldier who'd been held hostage by Hamas for over 5 years. It tells you the value. Like, this is the thing I always think about. People will tell you what they think about other human beings by the way they treat human beings, and I take them at their word. And the folks in Hamas don't value human life the way that maybe you and I do. That seems really obvious to me.
1,000 for 1, and that guy has 4 life sentences. I mean, that's like beyond the First Step Act as far as letting that guy out. And that's crazy that Israel did that, but they're in a completely different situation. I mean, I guess America has the longstanding policy of we don't negotiate with terrorists unless we're sending pallets of cash over to Iran, but it's just for humanitarian aid, of course. But they're completely surrounded out there, but they value that one life. I mean, that's one person who's been in custody for 5 years, and they made the necessary trade. I'm sure they probably saw that as a victory because they're also a very competent and capable military that's like, well, we'll just kill them another day.
Isn't it something? The other thing is ABC News did an interview with a former Shin Bet official, or a guy who was like one of their intelligence officers for Israel, and he described the guy as tough, devoid of emotions, but not a psychopath, but then also like unleashed an attack to kill 1,200 people that were just at a music festival. Anyway, it's interesting to see because the left wants to just lionize all these people and they want to get behind this cause. It's why I think they actually ended the Kamala Harris town hall the other day. Not town hall, the Brett Baier interview. They got on to the question of who's the number one threat to America, and she went with Iran. And they were like, throw the towel in, we have to stop it. Because she went immediately and had nothing to say about America. She was talking about Israel. And I feel like that's how you lose leftist votes at this point.
And then she's leaned into that because she came out last night and spoke in front of the podium, actually had to seal the vice president, but gave a presidential address about this, which leads me to question of who's running things. Guess what? By the way, Build Back Better. Can't believe it's not butter.
Who is running things right now? Like, what the heck is going on? That's why I want off this ride. And then you've also got the insane amount of gaslighting going on A guy who was already president. This is the funniest thing. Like, this hasn't happened in a while. This certainly hasn't happened in my lifetime. Someone who already was president is running again. So we actually can say, like, what happened? And you've got people like Joy Reid coming out. And I don't know how you get crazier than this. But are you ready for the claims? I don't think you've seen any of these videos. So this is
I love so much Joy. It's all about Joy.
It's about Joy. Like I said, it makes me think that we're going to see a steal simply because the fear tactics have come back. They're not talking about Joy anymore. They're not talking about hopium and what a great change of pace she is. It's like, if you elect Donald Trump, it's fascism, it's death camps. It's all the things that the people on the hard right have been saying too.
And they're breaking out even other elements of it as well. Like their CDC is going to require hospitals to report coronavirus hospitalizations beginning November 1st. And it's going to be up to Xavier Becerra when and how often that's going to happen. It's going to be daily up until Election Day. And they're going to say, look, it could be a pandemic. You should probably stay home. Oh, by the way, you can't get your mail-in ballots. Too late for you. But stay home, stay safe. Really, I mean, your vote is non-essential. And then on top of that, we have planned terrorist attacks because we just took down this guy October 7th coming from Oklahoma. He was plotting attacks at these soft targets, these ballot locations. So the fear porn is out there, be it from Donald Trump's going to put you back in chains and send the military to kill you, or just the act of going and voting is dangerous. Stay home.
This is something brought up in this little clip that we're about to play, and it's something I hadn't realized, but there's a rash of women in this country, which we're going to bag on a little bit. Not the women that listen to this program, but women who are leftists, and they actually don't have a lot of tie to the nation. Like, they didn't have an American upbringing. And Kamala Harris is one of them, and I keep hammering that home. Joe Pags was talking about it the other day. He's kind of like I'd say like a friendly acquaintance of both of ours. And he's talking about how she grew up in Canada. And I didn't realize this, but Joy Reid's dad is African. And so she doesn't have the history, for all her history of racism and slavery that happens. African immigrants to the United States do so well here, like shockingly well, to the point where she's making millions of dollars a year. And she's going to make this argument. So here she is talking about, like you said, the back in chains argument / you're going to be thrown in a camp so that Donald Trump can kill you off. Here we go.
And then the last thing I will say is that if Donald Trump does win, there won't be Democrats go back and figure out how to get more voters and figure out how to change your positions. There will be camps. There will be Project 2025. There could be arrests of people like Adam Schiff. There could be Nancy Pelosi being hauled off to jail. And if you don't think that that's possible, then you really don't understand that there is no American exceptionalism. We're just a country like every other country. My father lived under Mobutu Sese Seko. If you ran against Mobutu Sese Seko's party, you went to jail. That happened in my father's lifetime. Maduro is putting people in jail if on your WhatsApp they find that you're saying things against Maduro. That's happening right now in our neighboring country that wants to invade my mother's country, Guyana, because they have oil. These are happening in our neighborhood. There is no, our democracy is much more like a Latin American democracy than it is like England or Germany or any part of Europe. We are a Latin American country. So everything you see happen in Brazil, Venezuela, it all can happen here. So there isn't going to be an opportunity for Vice President Harris to be the bigger party because we will be fighting for our survival as a democracy, and some people will be fighting for their actual survival. So I think the question misses the point, because if Kamala Harris doesn't win, it's not clear there will be another election.
So wait, can Donald Trump slap I'm Donald Trump and I approve this message on the bottom of that? You're going to have Project 2025, Adam Schiff in jail, Nancy Pelosi under arrest, and other people held accountable. That should drive out the vote. Thanks, Joy Reid. In-kind
I'm for some of that. Also, I'm really into the idea now that I'm a Latin American country. I didn't know that, but that's
Do my kids get scholarships to college now?
No.
Oh, all right. No. Joy Reid, who's so under the thumb of the patriarchal system that we have here, the racist Latin American system, who went to Harvard and got a film degree. But she's going to give political commentary on this because she's a really serious person who changes her hairstyle every single day.
It's true. Steve, one of the fun stories that I threw on here, just just out of my own sort of interest. Oh, there, I'll hide you in the back there. The flu shot is going to be different this year. I saw this on NPR, and I just thought we'd have to bring it up since you mentioned that we're going to be doing COVID insanity. So that's the article. If people want to see it, there's nothing to it except saying that the flu shot is different. And essentially what they've said is that they are going to now withdraw one of the 4 flu strains that they normally try to inoculate people against. So it's just going to be trivalent instead of quadrivalent. That's the article here. Because somehow a strain of flu was completely eradicated by the weird things that we did during COVID between distancing and the social protocols and all that mitigation. It actually got rid of one of our strains of the flu that was running around in the world for, I don't know. And they can't find another historical precedent of that happening, which I thought was very interesting.
So until it recovers and comes back as a super flu, right?
Which is what they also mentioned, that there's a possibility that the people who work in these factories might actually reintroduce the thing that has been eradicated. And so it could come back because they're messing around with viruses, like a la Wuhan style.
We should probably fund a lab, right, to go and try to bring this thing back from extinction and then actually make it more viral and more deadly.
Yeah.
So that they can then plan to have the vaccine ready to go on that one.
That's right. Why not? I mean, at the end of the day, why not? Let's see. I've got another story here that I wanted to just kind of like touch on, and then we'll get into the funnies. So we're doing sort of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. This one was very interesting to me. Texas sues a doctor. This is Ken Paxton, as the state is suing a doctor and accusing this female doctor of violating their ban on quote unquote gender affirming care, which is to say giving cross-sex hormones. The lawsuit was announced by Ken Paxton on Thursday. That's yesterday. It's a Dallas area physician, a woman named May Lau. She's provided hormones to over 20 minors in violation of the Texas ban that took place. That's the allegation. And they're in fact suing. Of course, she's being defended by the ACLU's LGBTQ and HIV project, a thing I wasn't aware of. So the so-called libs are out there trying to sterilize kids, and they're terrified that this is a bad thing. She falsified medical records, and she's basically been trying to do all the things you'd expect to sort of get around this ban. My favorite part was here, and I'm going to see. Doctors should not have to fear being targeted by the government when using their best medical judgment, and politicians like Ken Paxton should not be putting themselves between families and their doctors. What do you think about all that?
What does Dr. Haim think about that?
That's exactly right. By the way, this is UT Southwestern Medical, which used to be a really, really serious organization. My buddy actually worked there. He's actually a physician at this point, but that was one of his summer jobs, is that he was working there. This is the story of him being the head guy. Just interesting to me that it's very important that doctors get to do what they think is best.
You mean like prescribing ivermectin?
No, you can't do that. That's actually not good point. That's not what we think is. They should do what's best when the government says it's what's best, except when the government says something that they don't agree with.
What if the doctor saw Kindergarten Cop and said boys have penises and girls have vaginas, so this boy who thinks he's a girl should probably be told that, no, son, you really are a boy, and let's get you some help between your ears?
Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. You know what I also found really interesting, and you may not know this? Medical malpractice, aka doctors screwing up, which, look, don't get me wrong, you're guessing in a lot of medicine, like for all the diagnostics.
Call it practicing medicine.
They're practicing it, but that's kind of like a soft dig. At the end of the day, you're basically taking a series of symptoms without being able to 100% understand what's happening, and you're going with the most likely answer, and sometimes it's wrong. That was the entire premise of Dr. House and that sort of like detective thing, but you are acting like a detective. As a paramedic, I used to do it in the field. Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death. This was from 2018. It fluctuates between 250 and 400,000 people dying from medical screw-ups. So maybe we just take it down on the God complex of saying that doctors always get it right, because they screw it up all the time, and so do other people underneath their license, pharmacy technicians delivering the wrong dose. There's all these fail-safes and stuff like that. Anyway, I think most people probably don't realize that it's such a high cause of death in the United States.
Or they have their best practices that they've now established, right? You should get the gene juice. Get your 12th booster, by the way, unless you're behind. If you don't have your 12th booster, you need to catch up. And the fact that one of the leading causes of deaths for young adults now in the country is died suddenly. I mean, that couldn't be their fault, right? We just don't know. We can't know these things. Some things are unknowable by the science.
They are unknowable, aren't they? The whole concept of going after, what do you call this? Going after doctors for doing cross-sex hormones, it brought up something that was kind of fresh to me. And there's a scenario. I just found it this morning on Good Morning America. So Good Morning America is all in on the leftist regime. They're going to normalize transgender weirdness. I want you to think about the odds and what was happening when you find out that someone has 2 children and one of them comes out as gay and the other one comes out as trans, and then we're going to run a marathon for men dressed up as women. I'm just going to play you this little clip because it's kind of nauseating. Like I said, I want off the ride if possible. So I'll get your reactions. You're a runner. This should be like, this is the Chicago Marathon. This is
my lane, man.
This is your jam. So tell me if you want to run next to these folks.
Welcome to the Chicago Marathon.
Running for trans kids. You're almost there.
If we're gonna run this, we're gonna run for something bigger than ourselves.
We've actually talked about your sister Chazzy, who is 18. She is proud to be transgender, and y'all are so close. And you said to me, Mom, I want to do this for Chazzy.
I feel so excited and so happy and so grateful that my lovely mom and brother are running for trans and non-Americans like me.
An important part of marathon training is stretching.
All the stuff that we have to get ready, preparing for a marathon takes a lot, and we're very grateful.
It is race morning. We are on our way down to the race start.
Really excited. Weather looks great. We got all our gear. Our family's here to support us throughout this town. Our dad, John, sister, Chazzy, the inspiration.
We are about to start. How are you feeling, Lev?
Feeling good. Beautiful day. All of the hard work that we've put in these past few months, all the long runs, all the eating, blood, sweat, tears, all in the name of the love for trans and non-binary people, it all comes to fruition today.
You got this. You got this.
Hi! We are heading to the finish line, and I am starting to get really emotional. Congratulations!
All right, that's all I want to see of that. That's enough. There's the dad. There's Chazzy, who looks like a dude with a wig on. What do you think, Steve? What are the odds of having a gay and also a trans child?
Very high when the matriarch is the member of the worst people on earth, the liberal, white, suburban woman who will cut off the genitals of her child so she can impress the other moms when she sips mimosas at Sunday brunch. But that wasn't enough. So she had to groom her other child to then be gay so that they could run in a race at a pace that will probably get them there behind when Oprah finishes because she walks the marathon, so just physically unimpressive. All the blood, sweat, and tears, all the eating. I saw there was definitely lots of eating that went on there. You would think if you trained for a marathon, you might have attained some modicum of fitness. So you couldn't even achieve anything objectively good from participating in athletic endeavor. The worst person on earth. There you go.
Listen,
that's your poster child.
You brought up the matriarchy. I didn't know when I was going to squeeze this in, but I got a video for you about how to help women that might be experiencing difficulty, and it has to do with the matriarchy. So we'll just work it in right now.
If you see a woman struggling with a flat tire, to help her, pull over and yell, "Go girl boss," then peel out and drive away. Helping her change the flat tire would be considered mansplaining, and that would be disrespectful. Welcome to the matriarchy. You know where women don't have to worry about getting stranded? The kitchen.
Follow for more sound advice like this.
What do you got?
Look, I mean, we are told by our society now, in the current misandrist society we have now, it's the opposite of misogyny, where they hate men. But we're told that men and women are exactly the same in every respect. They have the same capabilities and they can achieve all the exact same things, which is exactly why we need to promote only women.
That checks. Yeah, they're exactly the same. That's why we have to make a difference. When I was working for the FBI and my final location, my second to last squad, my boss was a military veteran. He was an academy graduate. He had served 8, maybe 10 years, I think 8 years. Honorable service, seems like a regular dude, was probably the best boss that I had in the entire FBI. And towards the end of my time there, this must have been maybe October, probably like right around the time I'm doing whistleblower stuff and everything started getting really weird. And I'm like going to Congress, and I'm telling them I'm not going to take the shots. He called a squad meeting in the bays. So folks that you're trying to imagine, it's someone standing at like a countertop that is also like a filing cabinet. There's a bunch of like cubicles that are 2 deep or 4 deep that are kind of like half circles. And so we've got a couple of those, and the whole squad is maybe like, I don't know, 8 or 10 people. And he calls everybody's attention in the office. And he said, I wanted to explain something to you. I know I don't owe you this explanation, but I'm going to give it anyway. One of my sons is gay, and my other son is now my daughter. And so if you're confused when you hear me talking about having a son when, at a younger age, but then I'm talking about a daughter that I didn't speak about, one of my sons has transitioned to being my daughter. And I couldn't be, and I'm very supportive. And he said, there's obviously something wrong with me, but at least my genetic line doesn't sound like it's going to continue, which is probably for the best. That was something that my boss said in a professional work environment. Have you ever experienced anything like that in your life?
I have, in line of this community. I think I've made reference to it before, the intern that we had in Daytona Beach. And I refer to the intern as the intern because I don't make any use of pronouns when it comes to the intern, because the intern was a female who then showed up one day with blue hair and the intern said, my name is Max and I'm now a man. And then we all had to use the same restroom as Max. So naturally, the FBI brought the intern on as a full-time employee. So this is sort of the Legion type of behavior that you're seeing. I guess your boss was probably married to someone who was, again, from the tribe of the worst people on earth, who made a point of saying, when you go to work, you're going to give this speech. And this guy who went to the military academy, West Point, didn't have the gonads.
He went to a different one. I'm anonymizing him just a little bit. He's a nice man. I'm not mad at him. He did do cowardly things, but at the end of the day, it wasn't West Point. It was one of the other service academies. But
right. So he went to a service academy and still did not have the testicular fortitude. At that point, I guess he was so defeated. He'd watched one of his children castrate themselves at the bequest of the mother, the matriarch, and the other one agree to be sodomized so that she could be uber popular at the PTA meetings and Sunday brunch. Yes, I suppose it is a good thing that his genetic line won't continue, because we don't need that sort of beta culture in the foreseeable future. When we are headed to dark times, we need hard men.
It's so weird. It's such a weird instinct, especially it was like the last person you'd guess. I've got another funny female thing. I'm going to ask you this question before we put the video up. I want to know if you can do this. If you're in a race and we're running, and I'm in second, and you pass me, what position in the race are you?
Second.
Okay, hold tight.
I'm in second place, and you pass me. What place are you in?
First.
First place?
Yes.
I'm in second place, and you pass me. Well, how would you be in first place?
Because I passed you. I passed you, so I'm in first.
I'm in second place, though.
Congratulations. Now I'm in first because I passed you. I passed you. Are we running? Are we driving? It doesn't matter. I passed you. I'm in first.
She's in first.
If you're not first, you're last. That's a girl boss right there. That's someone who needs to be elevated to a senior executive service position within the federal government.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I said that to you and you got it right away, because it makes me feel strong about what the argument that I was making. That was very helpful. All right, we're gonna cut over and we're gonna do some politics, because we're gonna play back and forth between this line today. Before we do it, let me just say this is probably a snack that you can get behind. My friends over at Mad Hat Jerky, one of our sponsors. I've got the big bag up here, guys. I've got like 7 bags right now because I've just gone totally overloaded. MadHatJerky.com/Kyle is where you can go get your own bag. Save 20% with the promo code KYLE. This is, you see how it says gourmet flank? That makes it USDA prime. This is black truffle. It's very fancy. It's not spicy, which means my kids can eat it. But this bag is mine. If you guys were watching our call-in program last night, you saw my 3-year-old sneak in here, and he was searching for my beef jerky stash, which I keep done underneath the desk usually. If you guys want the same kind of stuff that Bodie eats, MadHatJerky.com/Kyle. It really is outstanding. And I'm turning over a new leaf. I'm turning over the leaf, which is to say I'm cutting sugar out of my diet, so I'll probably be real cranky over the weekend. It is like getting steak in a bag. That's pretty helpful for those of you who don't want to cook a steak every 15 seconds. MadHatJerky.com/Kyle, promo code KYLE. Steve, I'm joining your camp. It's not going to be almonds in my diet, though. I'm going to cut all the sugars out because there's too much Kyle at this point. At 188 pounds, that's as heavy as I've been, like when I was doing a desk job for the Bureau. So I was like,
Couple weeks, man. You're just going to be another oak leaf on the branch.
I will be
and shredded.
You know what? My fastest runs are not from working out running. It's from me not eating for a little while or like changing my diet up. And then it's like, oh, I just shed a 20-pound weight fast. I can drop like a minute off my mile. Which is
all you need for that negative reinforcement is to put that body vest on and go for a run and be like, wow, I do not want to put this weight on.
Bro, I put on my plate carrier the other day. So I looked like that guy. And so I've got steel, like I run with real armor on too. So it's real level 4 plates, steel plates that I've got. I let the steel plates because the ceramic ones, I don't want to like chip them up or whatever. Then I put on a ruck, which is actually just a frame from Mystery Ranch that I actually kept from the pararescue program when I was in New Mexico back in the day. And I've zip tied 40 pounds of steel plates, which might not be 40 because they came from Chinese. It feels heavy as hell. Then I put a water pack on top of that. And so when I weighed myself, the differential was 68.2 pounds. So just shy of 70 pounds. And then I went out and did a couple miles and I felt like death and I hated everybody. And anybody that's running around that's like 25, 40, 50, 60 pounds overweight, if you dropped it, you'll feel like you can fly when you're done. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've done this before. I've shed weight by just changing my diet. So it's just a matter of me doing it right.
I made my sons run wind sprints on Sunday in preparation for football season, and my 10-year-old puked. So that's a dad victory.
I love it when you get to make somebody puke. My buddy and I had this bet when I got out of the military, and his thing was, could you put me through a workout that would make me throw up? And I said, 100%.
Yes.
And he said, could you do it in under 15 minutes? And I said, absolutely. I said, if you put out even a little bit towards what I'm going to have you do, you'll be vomiting. And I got him to puke in under 10 minutes. And we still remember it. It was down on Auditorium Shores, just down on what's called Town Lake in Austin. And I just had him doing like frog jumps and bear crawls. And it was brutal. He was like hugging a tree, puking on the ground. And I was so proud. We were both in our 30s, by the way, which is, it hurts way more than when you're a kid. I remember puking.
Only a man would ask for that, and only another man would do it, and you would high five afterwards.
Yeah, no, it's still like one of the great moments. In fact, he's actually moving back to the Austin area. And so for a couple of months, we're going to be in the same place. And I've got a ruck set up for him and a plate carrier. And he doesn't know it, but I'm about to get him. We're going to do some puking together to get ourselves back hard again. For those of you that are following on the Locals channel, you kind of know that that's what we talked about. It's just fitness is the one thing that you can prepare for free. It's the easiest prep you can do. It's the hardest prep, like motivational wise. But it costs you almost nothing to get your fitness in.
It's the only test you know the answers to ahead of time.
That's a great way of saying that. That's why Steve's my buddy. All right, we're going to move into some arguments that are being made about Donald Trump. There's a guy named Howard Lutnick. Have you seen him at all?
No. I don't know.
He's been out there doing the rounds. He's part of Trump's transition team. He might even be the chairman for Trump's transition team, if my memory serves. And people are trying to bust him on stuff going like, Trump is demanding loyalty of the people who work for him. Would you demand loyalty of people who work for you? Like that's a gotcha because we live in the upside down. And he's like, yeah, I do. You think you can work at the place you work and not be loyal to the people that pay your checks? Are you out of your damn mind? This is some fun stuff that I grabbed. I had these kind of like sitting. These are clips from the week. Just wanted to kind of enjoy them a little bit. So here, take a little taste.
You said to the Financial Times, we're going to give people the role based on their capacity, what you're saying here, and their fidelity and loyalty to the policy as well to the man. Is that how you run your company? People have to be loyal to you?
Absolutely. Imagine working at Cantor Fitzgerald and saying, I'm disloyal to Howard Lutnick. Or better, how about all of you? How about all of you look at the screen and say, to heck with Mike Bloomberg. Let's see how that goes. You'll be like, ta-ta.
Can they disagree with you?
You must disagree, but that's called challenge and conversation. That's what the Oval Office is all about. You bring in 5 people. I mean, Donald Trump loves conversation. He loves to get all sides of the idea. But then you make your choice and you go where the elected president of the United States of America goes. You go where Mike Bloomberg goes. If you work at Cantor Fitzgerald, you go where Howard Lutnick wants you to go. And anybody who says otherwise, I don't even know what they're talking about. This is like make-believe politics, right? You follow the man and you follow after the conversation.
Seems pretty straightforward. I used to do this in the military, by the way. It's like, okay, you give advice to the lieutenant. You give advice to the captain. You tell them what you think, especially if you got more experience, and then it's their decision anyway. Like, and if you don't want to be there, you can resign. You could do Steve Friend and say, hey, I'm not loyal to your institution because you're garbage. Like, that's an option.
Or you could just, well, for our situation, our loyalty was not to the organization. It was to the overarching oath of office that we took because it was based on a higher principle. That was a Constitution. That theory, that's what I swore my allegiance to. I didn't swear allegiance to the FBI.
Certainly not. And it turns out that like as long as the thing that's being offered or being ordered is lawful, then you do it, even if it's dumb, which you and I have both done dumb things because government or military officers have kind of like made that requirement. But you can't do illegal things. And that's not what he's arguing. Anyway, it's just funny that they think that that's a real good gotcha. There's some fun gotchas that have been coming out there. They're also trying to hammer him on tariffs. And so he was on another program, and they're like, tariffs are retarded. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you think that tariffs are going to work? And he was like, yeah, let me give you some examples. So this is kind of fun, too. These are strong arguments in favor of where we're going, which is that it turns out Democrats don't actually have any good ideas about economies, it seems like, which is why they have the reputation for not understanding how to do good economies, at least in modern history. Maybe they should stop putting dummies out there.
And of course, it's a bargaining chip. We can't sell a Ford or GM in Europe. You go to Europe, you can't sell a Ford or GM. Why? There's 100% tariffs. How about in Japan? 100% tariffs. So do you think if we said, we're going to tariff you the way you tariff us, do you think they're going to allow Mercedes and all these Japanese companies and Porsches and BMWs to all of a sudden have 100% tariffs in America? Of course not. They're going to come and negotiate, and their tariffs are going to come down. And finally, Ford and General Motors are going to be able to sell in these places.
How's that sound, Andrew?
Of course they're going to come down. Of course. This is just negotiating.
It absolutely makes sense. If you do it strategically, if it's across the board, it creates a real problem. And the question is whether you believe the president is going to do it strategically or across the board. He keeps saying it across the board.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what he's doing.
It's economics that makes people's eyes roll in the back of their head and they pass out, right? Like this is like we're having a football game right now, and what's going to really be that drives the outcome of it? Like in an election, it's going to be crime, inflation, illegal immigration, the economy, jobs, and you guys are going to talk about tariffs. It would be like saying, like, well, our football team has a better backup left tackle than yours. So let's talk about some line play. And you're like, well, I think it's probably going to be dictated a lot more by the starting quarterback and the starting middle linebacker, the guys that are out there for the most of the game.
I appreciate that you took it to sports ball and made a solid analogy. That I would not be making that analogy. That's why you're here in the morning, bud. That's it. Apparently, though, the Democrats don't have a great reputation on this. It's maybe because they field people in front that say really dumb stuff. This is a guy named Charlemagne who's got a big radio show. I don't say the rest of his handle because I think it's really offensive and blasphemous. He's asking Kamala why the GOP has a reputation for being better with the economy. And you'll be shocked that her answer doesn't make all that much sense to me. Maybe you can decipher it. I will actually ask you to put on your Kamala Harris translator hat as you listen to this. So, okay, there he goes. He just adjusted the invisible tie, folks. Steve is in the game, locked on. He's looking in through here for the instant replay of whatever the heck this stuff is.
For some reason, the narrative is that the economy does better under Republicans. Why do people believe that, and why don't Democrats push back on that narrative more?
Well, I think that part of the issue is that Democrats probably talk about it more in terms of what we are doing for people rather than the economy, when in fact, when you do for people, the economy grows.
Mm-hmm. What do you got?
I'm just imagining the size of the pumpkin because her grasp of the information is inversely related to the size of the pumpkin. So I'm thinking her hands must have been like 3.5 feet apart because really she has big. No grasp of how to make jobs. But if I was going to put my Kamala Harris hat on, I would say something to the effect of, this is a mistake on our part of messaging, because all I need to do is look back through history and say how under Bill Clinton's leadership in the 90s, how our economy really boomed and exploded. And then his successor, George W. Bush, drove this economy into a great recession. So this is just factually inaccurate. So we need to be better on our messaging here and let the voters know that under a Democrat leadership that the American economy can thrive, because we're going to focus on not the billionaires, but the grassroots, about the middle-class people that are out there busting their hump every single day. We're going to grow this from the middle out.
Steve, you're very upsetting because you're a better Kamala Harris than Kamala Harris, despite not being a woman of color or whatever it is. All right, let's move into a fun little contrast that we do. This is going to be, we'll say this is supported by our buddies at Catholic Vote, because this is going to be a Catholic roast that is done in New York called the Al Smith Dinner. Let me just do the Catholic vote thing. Folks, if you are not supporting my buddies over there, you're not supporting our show the full way. You might as well go get the loop. All you got to do is go to CatholicVote.org. It's a simple website. You type it in, you put your email in, and you get the loop in the morning, which covers down on this particular topic we're about to get into. Faith, family, and freedom are the guiding principles. You don't have to be a Roman Catholic person. You don't even have to be a Christian person to appreciate that they have solid takes and a non-spam based email that's going to get there every morning to kind of give you a taste of what's going on in the world. You can follow their social media at Catholic Vote, and I encourage that you do so. We're really appreciative that they are out there supporting us. Steve, I've got some of the best roasting stuff. Here is how it started. Donald Trump led it off with this.
Tradition holds that I'm supposed to tell a few self-deprecating jokes this evening. So here it goes. Nope, I've got nothing. There's nothing to say. I guess I just don't see the point of taking shots at myself when other people have been shooting at me for a hell of a long time and they shoot hard.
What do you got? What do you rate that one?
I mean, that's a solid 8, 9 out of 10. Just straight cold coming in. Hey, look, he's politics aside, he's a funny human being. He's charismatic, and he's cultivated this persona of having such enormous hubris that when he delivers the lines and in a comedic sense, it just hits. Like I always go back to that first debate in 2016 when they came to the end. They said, "What's going to be your code name if you become the president?" And they went to Donald Trump last, and he said, "Humble." It just, you know how to deliver.
That's solid. Yeah, there's a certain amount of sense of awareness to be able to do that. And, you know, it actually is like his version of self-deprecation, I feel like, is that he does this like this fake like super pride.
It's shtick. And I mean, and he's not above actually telling self-deprecating humor. I mean, he made reference to his hair at one point where he was like, "Yeah, I was trying really hard not to have it blow away." I mean, so he's has that
He used
quality.
to be on SNL, because we're going to do an SNL transition here. He was on SNL, and he does this one where they have a guy playing him, right, being the Donald Trump, and then the actual Donald Trump comes in dressed in a jumpsuit to be the plumber to fix the solid gold faucet, and then the two of them have this back and forth where real Donald Trump plays like a working man, making fun of fake Donald Trump, which is, you know, portraying himself. He's got a good sense. This is someone who doesn't have a sense of humor. This is Kamala Harris. This might be one of the most ill-advised things. First of all, she didn't show up to the Al Smith dinner. That's a common thing that people do on the presidential campaign. They stop in there. It's raising money for children. It's put on by the Catholic Diocese in New York City, which is not amazing because the Catholic charities groups are sketchy at this point right now. They're working with NGOs and illegal immigrants and so on. But this is Kamala Harris. She phoned it in. She literally made a taped video, and this is her submission that was played. It's one of the, I'm not even going to be able to get through all of it because it's some of the cringiest things you're ever going to see. But let it be known that the woman who's playing Mary Catherine is Molly Shannon, and Molly Shannon is a 60-year-old woman portraying a Catholic schoolgirl teenager, which is about the cringiest thing you could do. Here we go. Wait a minute, I didn't cue it up. Now here we go.
Cool. Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's going on? Who was that?
Oh, sorry, Mary Catherine Gallagher. Mary Catherine Gallagher. It's so nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you, Mary Catherine. Right now I'm trying to record my speech for tonight's dinner.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say that I'm Catholic, and tonight is one of the biggest dinners next to the Last Supper.
It is a very important dinner, and it's an important tradition that I'm so proud to be a part of.
Sometimes when I get nervous, I stick my fingers under my arms and I simmer them like that. But that's gross.
So tell me something. I'm giving a speech. Do you have some thoughts about what I might say tonight?
My feelings about what you should say tonight would be best expressed in a monologue from one of my favorite made-for-TV series.
Okay, let's hear it.
Don't you see, man? We need a woman to represent us. A woman brings more heart, more compassion. And think how smart she must be to become a top contender in a field dominated by men. It's time for a woman, bro. And with this woman, we can fly.
What series was that from?
Oh, that's from House of Dragons, now streaming on HBO Max.
Is there anything that you think that maybe I shouldn't bring up tonight?
Well, don't lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor.
Indeed, especially thy neighbor's election results.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus. And maybe don't say anything negative about Catholics.
I would never do that, no matter where I was. That would be like criticizing Detroit in Detroit.
Does it bother you that that Trump guy insults you all the time? Because it really bothers my friends and me.
Oh, Mary Catherine, it's very important to always remember you should never let anyone tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Haters gonna hate, hate, hate. Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off. Good for you, Mary Catherine.
Oh, yeah.
It goes on, by the way. There's more to this. Then she gives this like awful speech. That might be the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen to Catholics and just in general to like human beings that have a sense of humor and an IQ over 90.
Nothing in there was funny. And the setup for it was, hey, how can we not have you talk at all? How can we have a paid professional actress actually deliver the majority of the dialogue here?
A 60-year-old woman pretending to be a 16-year-old high school, college, or Catholic school girl. It's so gross, dude. It was the worst. That was the worst SNL skit. Period. The fact they made it into a movie makes me want to vomit too.
And this didn't go well in 2016 because I remember that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton wound up going to the event, and it was like it was a catastrophic event because Donald Trump was really angry. He wasn't really comedic about it. So he doesn't have a perfect track record at attending the event, but he attended in good faith there. And she basically said, I'm not going to show up because they determined that it would have been bad because she's not capable of delivering a good line. She just doesn't have the chops. I was talking earlier today that I don't like Barack Obama. I detest him as a human. I detest him as the president. Disagree with just about everything that he ever stood for. And then he had this moment, though, where he was doing some live address and at the podium and the seal of the president fell down and people were kind of murmuring and he just said, it's okay. You know who I am. And that's a cool move, right? That's charismatic. Kamala Harris is not capable of doing that. Kamala Harris has never told a self-deprecating joke in her life. If someone said it to her, her head would explode. She would get indignant like she was with Bret Baier.
So I think I've got the opening that Jim Gaffigan did, who's a professional comedian, and I don't think he did as well as Donald Trump did even. And I think I was just able to pull this thing up. So give me a sec. Let me see if this works out.
Yeah, this has been an interesting presidential campaign. The Democrats have been telling us Trump's re-election is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true.
Like, not a joke.
That's a stump speech. That does not seem comedic at all. And he's a communist at this point. I used to really enjoy Jim Gaffigan because he made non-political statements that were just silly. He used to joke about Hot Pockets. And then he came out as this dyed-in-the-wool communist. And I really lost taste for him entirely after that.
People were asking like how he ended up like that, and he was on Rogan about a year ago, and Rogan was just dropping bombs on him about stuff about like, how bad the government is, and it might have been like a point where he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything. I better go look into this. Oh, it turns out everything is terrible, and these people are liars." And so maybe he's just listening to more people that are reasonable. Pretty funny. Are you ready for the top 5?
Oh, send it,
dude. This is actually really good. This is peak Donald Trump. If it was based on comedy, if it was just based on Donald Trump's ability to deliver a line that's funny, this crushes it, including the fact that he refers to Chuck Schumer, who's sitting right next to him on his left-hand side at the table below him. He calls him glum and taps him on the back. It's freaking deadly. So stand by. Here we go.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep them away. That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
Did he call the Senate Majority Leader a woman after making a cuck joke?
Yeah, he made a cuck joke. He made an illegal alien joke in New York. And then he just dropped one and called him glum, but it's okay.
And he called out his own joke right away. Ooh, that was a nasty one. Because he didn't read them ahead of time.
Yeah, no, he's just doing these cold. You could tell. He stumbles through some of the lines. It's not perfect, but dude, absolutely brutal.
Look, if this doesn't work out for him, he could probably get a job over at SNL playing himself.
Like he did. Yeah, it's good stuff. Let's see. I've given you the sound woman advice. Okay, so we've got two more good jokes. Let's go ahead and go to some serious stuff for 1 second here. This one, I don't even think you've seen this, but the DOJ has actually charged a former Indian intelligence official in a foiled assassination plot. I don't know if you've talked about this one yet, but here you go. This is coming out from yesterday. Our DOJ went ahead and indicted a Indian governmental official who's not in America and is still at large. I don't even need to get into it. It was basically an attempt to go kill a Sikh official in New York, a guy who's been leading kind of like a Sikh movement, and they don't like it. Why do we keep indicting people that we can't arrest, huh?
The press release had over 1,400 words, and you only need to know 4 of them. This guy remains at large because it's cosplay from a national security perspective. It's cosplay from a law enforcement perspective. They hope you do not read beyond the headlines.
Sorry.
That's it. They're not serious people.
I'm seeing that our chat is telling me that I boosted your audio when I was trying to bring up Jim Gaffigan's audio, so you were just blasting at people at full volume. So for those that are listening.
I'm really passionate about dunking on the FBI, so
yeah, that's correct.
Forgive me.
So that's one of them. And then we've got in something that you and I have been sitting on. I know you guys covered it over on AMRAD, so folks, you can find the American Radicals podcast. It's at AMRADPod on Twitter, and it's rumble.com/AMRADPod, so check that out. But how about this guy? U.S. Army soldier, 14 years in prison, attempting to assist ISIS to detect a deadly ambush on U.S. troops. Cole Gonzalez, a.k.a. what's his other name? Why does he have 2 names? Cole Bridges. Lay it out for people.
This is probably one of the most egregious examples of FBI entrapment that I've seen since I've been monitoring this over the last couple of years. He's 24 years old now. This started in 2019 when he was 19. Now, giving the FBI the benefit of the doubt that they didn't start grooming him before he turned 18, which I think they probably did, he had some ISIS sympathies at the age of 19 in 2019 when ISIS wasn't a thing because he's a retard. He's a vulnerable person who thinks that ISIS is a thing because that's the only terrorist organization he's ever seen in his short adult life. Man. So the FBI identified that.
Never go for
and then facilitated him and encouraged him with an informant to join the U.S. Army. Now, the U.S. Army would have to do a background check. The FBI would have to red flag and say, hey, look, we got some sort of assessment. So they either withheld that from the DOD or they colluded with the DOD to make sure that he got into the Army, went to boot camp, went to training where he handled live ammunition and could have actually shot a soldier, and then did all of that so that a year or so later, they could introduce the online undercover employee who he then had such illusions and delusions of grandeur that he was telling him about places he could attack in New York, even though he wasn't from New York, didn't know anything about New York, ways that he could take down special forces, even though he wasn't a member of special forces, sending this information to purported members of ISIS because they weren't members of ISIS. It was all invented by the FBI. And then they could bring down these charges in 2024 after 6 fiscal years of keeping an open ISIS investigation, when all of this could have been resolved in a way that I resolved my ISIS investigation, and that was going to the person early on and saying, you're at a fork in the road. You could choose to go dark. You could choose to choose the right option. I'm not telling you how to do that, but I'm telling you is I'm a consequence if you choose wrong, because I actually care about you. I want good things for you, which is what you're supposed to do if you work in law enforcement. But the FBI doesn't do that. They just viewed this retard as someone who they could use as an opportunity, as a target to boost their terrorism stats.
So that guy, when he was talking to the FBI CHS, I think he said something like this.
I'm kind of retarded.
And then after 6 years, the FBI got to do the thing that they always love to do. This is why we have it on the soundboard. This is what it sounds like. This is what it used to sound like when they would call up my team. We got one! They lose their minds, and then they go and they grab this dude. So he was arrested. He pled guilty because they had him dead to rights. And now he's going to serve 14 years, and I'm sure he'll come out and be much more likely to love America when he's a almost 40-year-old man who's just done 14 years in prison for terrorism charges that he never had the possibility to actually do. We're just dealing with, it's so bad, dude. This is how it works out. We just keep bringing in these people that are low IQ, no friends. This is the playbook. And we've told you guys that anybody who knows how to recognize it, they know what it is.
It's so dark, the fact that you're a mandated first reporter. So let's say he was emotionally disturbed. You're supposed to bring that. But you thought, oh no, we got one, fresh meat, we got one on the hook, and let's keep it going for 6 years so that we can keep checking the box on that ISIS case that you have there. They don't view the people as their customers, as the citizens who they theoretically swore an oath to protect and defend against fraud and force and potentially terrorism. They just view them as an opportunity. Are you dumb enough? Are you indigent enough? Are you lonely enough? Because that's something that we want to exploit. And that's just against everything that relates to the heritage of civic service, of law enforcement, of just generally just being a good person. It's fundamentally evil. And the people who did this at the FBI Cleveland office deserve to not only lose their clearances and their jobs, they probably deserve themselves to be locked up, but at the very least, have their families disown them, wind up penniless and indigent and vulnerable.
Oh, like they could be suspendables without having any of the character. Let's briefly touch on the 30 for 30 piece that you had published in The Blaze. Folks, you can find it in my social media feed. You can find it in Steve's social media feed. You can find it in Steve Baker's social media feed. You probably can find it in all the Suspendables media feeds. Let's talk about briefly, since for those people that didn't listen to us in the call-in show last night, 30 for 30, and then I got a clip that's going to be able to properly sort of lay out the case for 30 for 30. Go ahead.
Well, 30 by 30 is the initiative that is taking law enforcement by storm around the country. The FBI, the DOJ, all arms of the DOJ are all in on it, Department of Homeland Security. The initiative is we're going to get to 30% female leadership in law enforcement by 2030, but it's basically cloaking cultural Marxism under the guise of female empowerment, and it's looking at things like physical fitness tests are discriminatory, grooming standards are discriminatory, job knowledge tests are discriminatory, and we have to eradicate white culture from law enforcement, and white culture parenthetically meaning being polite, embracing English common law, setting goals, being prompt, those qualities that you just want to be a functional human being, because what it's done is it's taking the priorities and inverting them. So your priority should be public safety. You want to present the best possible law enforcement agency to ensure that the public is safe within the confines of the law and the Constitution. But instead, we're going to prioritize immutable characteristics like the genitals wagging between your legs because we're doing social experimentation. And as a result of that, your product, law enforcement, public safety, will suffer because the government sees public safety as something that is non-essential compared to when they can advance a political narrative under the guise of we're just girl bossing it up.
Folks, go read the article. It's worth seeing some of the specific instances, including the things that inspired it. Some of the stuff that inspired that was the female disaster areas that were running around on July the 13th in Butler, PA. Hans Kim is a comedian that I found a clip of. He has a slightly less reverent take than Steve Friend did. A little bit less academic, but still funny.
Still
it's
shaking
Friday.
off the think tank fellow vibes.
It's no big deal. That's why we have comedians, professionals, not just Donald Trump giving us the good time. Here's something that I found amusing. I will bring this home with something that is pro ladies, because we do love women, especially the kind of women that we're married to, the kind of women that are in our camp. They're indispensable. This guy's I think he's trying to get incel comments. Very funny stuff. Enjoy the comedic stylings of Hans Kim. This one is not appropriate for work. Just now you've been warned. Probably not for your kids either.
I can't believe there's a woman running for president right now. Is this a circus? They just got the right to vote. Now they want to run the whole thing. Not on my watch. Kamala, more like blah blah. What is this shrieking about? But yeah, I don't think anyone wants to hear women talk. I think we just want to... No, seriously. I think we just want to hear the air moving around their tits. Personally. But they're racist to Asian guys. Women want a strong, confident American man that's going to attack Iraq twice for no reason. They don't want a cunning, careful Asian boy that's going to pick the right harbor. Thank you.
Wow. Way to get the show started, Hans Kim. Very woman-hating set. Are you trying to win over all the incels in your Instagram comments right now?
Incels.
I've never heard anybody cheer for incels like that, which, by the way, is a domestic threat that the FBI actually investigates.
I would say maybe that is all the encouragement they need to choose the right path. Just a nice laugh or two, as opposed to being introduced to an informant who grooms them from the age of 17 to join the army and then do a terrorism.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of comedy instead of somebody with a 60-year-old woman pretending to be a Catholic schoolgirl would be better. All right, we're wrapping this thing up. It's been an interesting week. It's been a short week, but it feels like it's been really long to me. So maybe that's just on my end of things, but I'm exhausted. And therefore, sometimes one of the things that we talk about, Steve, in the background is that some of these people need to pay the ultimate price. And that means generating a problem that needs to be disposed of. Would you agree?
Yes, avow.
And if you're gonna be in a marriage where you might be considering solving problems in the final way, the Joy Reid style, putting people in camps and getting rid of them or whatever, you really want a woman that's in your corner. And this is a little bit about how to choose the right women. Men, this is for you. Women, be this lady. This is what we're looking for. I also appreciate she has kind of a foreign accent, so I feel like this will hit you guys just a little bit differently. Enjoy.
If I killed somebody, would you turn me in? What's wrong?
Let's go for a drive. Okay, what's going on? You smoked somebody?
What?
Where's the body?
No, there is no body.
Okay. Did you take it to the city dump or the swamp by the train tracks?
Neither.
Oh, please don't tell me you buried the damn thing.
I didn't kill anybody, and it's very disturbing that you know where to hide bodies. I was just asking a general question.
Oh.
Just joking.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know why I like that so much. I like that she finished up with a very serious, did I answer your question?
Sounds like my wife.
She's willing to solve problems with you.
She's got the exfil ready. I mean, we got dump packs every place, all throughout the swamps of Florida. We're ready to go.
Florida's got some good options. That's a definite true. Louisiana also, all of you that have water that is deep, you got options. Pig farms in Idaho. Yeah, the chat is now running through all the options of disposing of a body. Thanks, you freaking derelicts. We got nothing but savages that listen to the program, but so be it.
If anyone in the chat is only available to talk Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, just so you know, playbook's in effect. That's fed.
Yeah, you're being groomed. Steve, I'm going to throw you full screen. Why don't you tell people what you got coming up for AMRAD over the weekend?
We're going to have the triumphant return of GOB actual. Garrett O'Boyle is coming back. He missed Thursday because he was in Washington, D.C. at the Ivory City dealing with his appeal. And we're going to do an after action on that experience and then as well just talk about some of the crazy court decisions that are coming out. So it should be a good time. Join us on Rumble, rumble.com/AmRadPod, the American Radicals podcast. Noontime start there. But if you missed that exact, it's always available for replay or the audio on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart. So Saturday, noontime, be there, be square. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on this morning, Steve. I appreciate you being my buddy. Thanks for doing the call-in show last night. Folks can hear that. We got a little sideways. We got some tipsy girls calling us in. So be it. We'll give them. That's what the call-in show is all about over on Locals. But hope you have a great weekend, man.
Thank you. You too. See you back here.
All right. Sounds good. All right, folks, that's going to be it for us today. Let me just give you a quick reminder. Things are getting weird out there. So if you guys want to support our program and you're also looking for a way to improve the capabilities of your personal carry Glocks, check out my friends over at Shield Arms. It's shieldarms.com. The promo code is Kyle. Link is in the show description. Very easy for you to remember it. Same story. If you want to get sleep, which we are pro sleep here in the Seraphin household, even if we don't get it, mypillow.com/Kyle. Again, the promo code Kyle saves you up to 50%. So check them out as well. And don't forget that we always have the merch store, which is GOB Actual's sort of side hustle, if you will. his wife's job where she gets to tell him what to do, the-suspendables.com for all the t-shirts that Steve and I are always wearing on the show. And you can use promo code Kyle to save yourself 10% over there. At the end of the day, hope you guys will log off social media today at some point and not log in until Monday. I'm going to take my own advice, make sure you do some fun dad stuff. We're going to go out and run around in the little ATVs that I built up for the kids and try not to pay attention. I think Trump making some great roasting is a good way to remember that this is still America. And for now, we can still laugh and we can still hang out with our friends and say things that are funny. So hope you guys appreciate that. Share this thing around if you did. Make sure you've liked the video. Subscribe to the channels if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review. I'll read another one on Monday. And until then, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.